My name is Tony Delgado. I'm the CEO and founder of Disrupt. I'm also the CEO and co-founder of Latino Wall Street, a mission to create financial literacy in the Latin community and have an impact on the 400 million Latinos all around the world. In 5th grade.
Wow.
And he was telling us to buy Amazon when the shares were under $1.
Oh my goodness.
At that point.
Oh God, if only, right? Oh man.
When I grew up, there was no Gary Vee.
Right.
There was no Instagram and TikTok.
Definitely
Entrepreneurship
Definitely
wasn't even a word, basically.
Welcome back to another episode. My name is Edward Collins. I'm your host for Entrepreneur Unleashed. And as you know, if you've been following me at any length, I believe that the best way to shortcut your journey of success is to learn vicariously from others who have been through what you're going through now and made it through to the other side. I'm joined in the studio today by Tony Delgado. We're going to be getting into a lot of really good stuff, and I don't want to delay it any further. Let's just get started. Tony, thank you so much for being here.
Thanks for having me, man.
So, would you mind just telling us maybe like a 90-second version of who you are and what you're doing right now?
So, sure. My name is Tony Delgado. I'm the CEO and founder of Disrupt. I'm also the CEO and co-founder of Latino Wall Street, a mission to create financial literacy in the Latin community and have an impact on the 400 million Latinos all around the world.
Wow.
That sounds fancy.
It sounds super fancy. I love it. Okay.
But I grew up super humble, grew up on Section 8. Father wasn't around, single mother. And don't want to necessarily say that I grew up poor, but I definitely grew up around poverty.
Okay.
So I realized from a really young age that whatever was being taught in the school system about money wasn't the truth. I didn't know what the truth was, but I knew that the truth was
Wasn't
not
what they were
really
saying.
being taught there, right? And in 5th grade, we had a teacher who was teaching math and decided to introduce the stock market into his curriculum.
5th grade.
In 5th grade.
Wow.
And he was telling us to buy Amazon when the shares were under $1.
Oh my goodness.
At that point.
Oh God, if only, right? Oh man. Before all the, yeah. Oh wow.
Yeah. So, but what he was doing was very disruptive. What he was doing was not on the curriculum. It wasn't on the menu. So I learned from a really young age that they weren't going to teach us about money in school. I remember doing a lot of simple math and figuring out that, like, hey, how much does a teacher make? Like, that was like my first question.
In 5th grade, you were thinking this?
Yeah, like 3rd grade,
Something
maybe
like that.
6th
Wow.
grade. Yeah, around there. Like before middle school, I was asking,
Early.
how much are the teachers making?
Okay.
Right, and then doing the mathematics and saying, okay, how can I become a millionaire, right? And then so that was something that I fixated on when I was really young too. I was like, how can I become a millionaire? And so I was like, okay, well, $1 million is this much, right? And I was really good at math, and there's 365 days a year. So then I remember the first number that I had came up with is like, that's about $3,000 a day.
Yes.
So I was like, I have to make $3,000. How do I make $3,000 a day? Because if I do that, then I can.
I can't believe you did that at such a young age.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So that was sort of my goal before I went into high school, was how do I make $3,000 a day? So I started all these different types of crazy businesses. I had a lemonade stand. I had a car wash.
Okay.
I would host Super Bowl parties and sell tickets to my friends. So everybody else is having free birthday parties. I was like, no, there's a cover charge.
I love this.
And so I was always really fascinated and infatuated with entrepreneurship. Yeah.
When you look at that experience, you touched on something I can't let us gloss over. Like the whole not necessarily kosher environment with regard to what you were doing when you were a youth. Did that derail you at all, or just inspire you? Like, tell me about what the challenges that you were engaged in when you were a kid.
Okay, so like when I grew up, there was no Gary Vee.
Right.
There was no Instagram and TikTok.
Definitely
Entrepreneurship
Definitely
wasn't even a word, basically. And so who do we look up to, right? We looked up to rappers and music artists and all these things. So when you turn on the media, well, what do you see?
MTV at that time.
Yeah, MTV and BET and all that stuff. You see rappers talking about selling drugs and robbing people and killing people and doing all these crazy sorts of things. And I grew up in the inner city, and it's kind of interesting. My life has a lot of different.
Where did you grow up again?
Buckets. So I grew up right outside of Manhattan in New Jersey.
Okay.
West New York, Newark, Union City, all these areas that are right outside of Manhattan. And since I was a kid, I used to go to Manhattan. So I would take the PATH train to New York, and I'm, not even in high school yet, and I'm hanging out in New York, right? And so in New York, there's a big culture of drugs.
Yeah.
There's a big culture of all sorts of crazy things that we got into as young people. And like I said, like we were hosting parties and basically created like our own version of a speakeasy at some point.
Okay.
And definitely like selling marijuana in high school and all sorts of like really crazy things that we did when we were young. And then like my life had all these different chapters, right? So if I was gonna write a story about my life, it'd have to be different books and different movies, because I had a lot of different phases, and in every single phase of my life, I was willing to reinvent myself and give up whatever identity I had initially created. Right.
So many people show up to their 9 to 5, and they just show up to get the paycheck, not necessarily to learn and to improve themselves, and dedicate themselves to skills development, whatever it may be. Whether you have an end goal in mind or not, that day should be a goal, right?
Absolutely, because at the end of the day, you're going to spend the money.
Yeah.
Whatever small amount of money you're going to pay for a job, that's going to be spent. What's not going to go away is the experience of who you get to become while you're there.
Correct.
So every single experience that I've had, whether it's getting in trouble as a kid, whether it's working day laborer jobs, whether it was working in corporate in an IT environment, whether it was getting in trouble online for businesses I had online, getting cease and desist from people all around the internet. Every single time these things were happening, they were never happening to me. They were happening for me, right? Like Tony Robbins says. And I was thinking, okay, what can I learn from being in this situation? So like, for example, I had a job in corporate IT.
Okay.
We were, I was in my early 20s. We were climbing through corporate buildings and running Cat5 cable and running Wi-Fi cables and installing printers and cameras and all phone systems and all the things that make a business work, right? And so a lot of people would clock out from that job at 5 o'clock.
Right.
They would leave like 4:49.
Exactly.
They're like, boom, I'm out. And I used to stay sometimes all night working, learning, working with the owner, and like learning from him as a sponge. So every single time that I've had an opportunity to work with someone, for someone, that opportunity is, hey, what can I learn from this situation? Who do I get to become?
Exactly. You have the ability to go back in time, okay? And you can visit with a younger version of you. And you're able to share one piece of wisdom with that younger version of you. Who would you be going back to? Like, what age, like what was circumstances like at that point in time, and what that one piece of information be? What wisdom would you share?
Yeah, I mean, I think I'd probably, I always say that I don't want to change my life because I'm happy at the man that I've become, right? And I do feel that all the trials and tribulations that I've been through, whether it was like growing up without a father in the household or getting in trouble with the law, right? Like all of those things shaped the man who I am today, right? Like when I went to jail, I read books, right? So when people are like, do you wish you didn't go to jail? I was like, no.
You read books that
I read
changed your
books
life.
that changed my life. So
Right.
like, no, I just sat there and just read books. And when I came home, people were saying, oh my God, it's like you went to college.
Yeah.
Right? So I don't know if I would necessarily change anything, but if I had to give myself some advice and maybe go back, I would probably go back to, when I was in high school trying to figure these things out. And I probably would have tried to get myself out of my hometown earlier.
Okay.
I think the sooner, I didn't really escape my hometown, I think until like my mid-20s. I think the sooner that people can get out of their hometown,
Right.
you have all these friends who are really not your friends. So the advice that I had for my younger self is like, those people, whoever those people are, they're not your friends. Right? I've literally had friends that I was in kindergarten and grade school with literally stab me in the back.
Oh my goodness.
Not figuratively.
Yeah,
like
literally
with a knife trying to stab me in the back. Thankfully he missed, but he stabbed my jacket. But so I would go back and probably tell myself right before I got into high school, like, hey, those friends that you think are your friends, those are not your friends.
I've gotten a lot of value out of this conversation. I know that the audience has too. And if they wanted to get in touch with you, like after this episode, like what would be the best way for them to reach out to you, to find out more about your community and what you're doing?
Yeah, sure. So you can follow me on Instagram, Tony Delgado. You can also hit us up on Instagram, the company, Latino Wall Street, or disruptmagazine.com, latinowallstreet.com. We're there. And yeah, we're hosting events all the time. We got an event coming up in Miami if you speak Spanish. So we'd love to see you there. And yeah, tune in.